Hi, I'm David McCree, CPA at Form990help.com, and I have prepared a list of 12 of the most common errors made on Form 990 and 990EZ. And these 12 items, some of them can result in the return being deemed incomplete, which can subject the organization to late filing penalties. So here we go, 12. Number 1, filing on the wrong year's form. If you have a fiscal year organization and the year begins in, let's say, 2011 and ends in 2012, which year's form do you use? Well, it would be a 2011 Form 990 because the beginning of the year controls. Number 2, failure to prepare and attach Schedule A. Schedule A is the public support calculation, and it's required for all 501c3 organizations. If you don't have it, return's incomplete. Number 3, failure to indicate on Schedule A why the organization is not a private foundation. This is a simple check the box. Make sure you don't miss it. Number 4, failure to attach Schedule B. Schedule B is your list of large donors. Generally means donors who give at least $5,000 during the year to the organization. Be sure you read the instructions to see if it applies to you. If it doesn't apply, be sure you check the box that says that you don't have to file it. If you fail to check the box, the IRS is going to be looking for that Schedule B, and you will receive communication. Number 5, failure to attach Schedule O. Schedule O is mandatory for the full Form 990. It is mandatory in certain cases for 990EZ. My recommendation is that you always file Schedule O with your return. Number 6, balance sheet net assets do not equal net assets on page 1 of the return. Those two things have to agree. If you have professional tax software, you'll get an error message. If you don't, be especially careful if you're preparing a return by hand. Number 7, failure to list officers and directors. It doesn't matter whether they're compensated or not, they have to be listed where it's asked for it on the return. You don't have to use their home address, you shouldn't use their home address, use the organization's address, and fill in if their compensation is 0, put 0. If you leave it blank, your return is incomplete. Number 8, failure to show fundraising expenses in the fundraising column of the statement of functional expenses. The IRS expects to see fundraising expenses in the fundraising column if you have donations listed as revenue on page 1. They figure if you're getting donations, you're doing fundraising. So my recommendation is if you can't identify any specific fundraising expenses, that you allocate some. Some say the magic number is 5% of total expenses should be fundraising. Number 9, improper reporting of proceeds from fundraising events. You have to show proceeds from fundraising events gross. You cannot net fundraising expenses, direct expenses, against fundraising revenue. You have to show it gross. Number 10, inappropriately classing income as unrelated business income. I see this frequently, particularly with newsletters that have advertising income. This is usually not unrelated business income. It falls underneath one of the exceptions. So you really need to understand how to classify your revenue, whether it's donations, whether it's program service revenue, whether it is income that's statutorily excluded from unrelated business income, like interest or dividends, or income that's produced largely by volunteer labor, or income that's not regularly carried on, or whether it's unrelated business income that is subject to tax. Number 11 and number 12, failure to file the proper extensions for Form 990 and 990EZ and 990T. For the 990 and the EZ, you get 2 3-month extensions. You have to be sure that you file the extensions before the due date, otherwise they won't do you any good. The 990T gets a 1 6-month extension is allowed. So you're required to file separate forms. So if you have to file the 990 and the 990T, you need one Form 8868 for the 990 and another Form 8868 for the 990T. Don't try to get them both on the same extension. I hope these tips are helpful to you, and I hope you put them into practice so you can file the best 990 that you can and that you don't hear from the IRS. This is David McCree, CPA, Form990help.com.